Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake, lived a poor woodcutter named Rick Hansen. Rick was known throughout the village for his honesty and integrity. Despite his humble beginnings, he always had a smile on his face and was respected by everyone around him. One day, while chopping wood, Rick stumbled upon a tiny mouse hole. As he looked closer, he noticed a small mouse struggling to free itself from the sticky situation. Without hesitation, Rick picked up the mouse and placed it on the ground. Just as the little mouse regained its freedom, it turned to Rick and said, "I want to give you a gift for your kindness. Ask for anything and it shall be given." Rick, taken aback by the mouse's offer, replied, "I don't need anything. You can keep your gift for someone else." The mouse insisted, saying, "No, you must accept something from me. It could be gold, precious jewels, or maybe even a magical lamp." Rick thought about it for a moment. He had a wife and children to feed, and an old, dilapidated house that desperately needed repair. But he didn't want to exploit the mouse's generosity. Finally, he said, "Well, if I must accept something, then I ask for enough money to buy food for my family and repair my house." The mouse, pleased with Rick's modest request, waved its magic tail and poof, a bag of gold appeared in his hands. Overjoyed, Rick thanked the mouse profusely and went to the market to buy food and supplies. He returned home with a renewed sense of hope and gratitude. The villagers, noticing the sudden change in Rick's fortune, were quick to congratulate him. Some were envious, wondering where he got the money. However, Rick, being the humble man he was, never revealed the truth about the mouse's gift. Days turned into weeks, and Rick's fortune began to dwindle. He used the money to help his family and repair his house, but he soon found himself back in his old, dilapidated state. One evening, while Rick was chopping wood, he heard a knock at the door. He put down his axe and walked towards the sound. To his surprise, he saw a magnificent palace right where his humble abode once stood. Confused and bewildered, Rick stepped inside. To his astonishment, the palace was empty. Suddenly, a beautiful woman appeared before him and introduced herself as the princess of the neighboring kingdom. She explained that she was looking for a brave and honest man to marry, and she had heard tales of Rick's integrity. Rick, flattered but hesitant, declined her offer. He was a simple woodcutter and didn't feel worthy of being a prince. The princess, however, was persistent. She had set her heart on Rick and was determined to make him an offer he couldn't refuse. She told him that if he agreed to marry her, he would become the prince of her kingdom and live in a magnificent palace. All he had to do was say yes. Overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, Rick asked for some time to think about it. The princess, sensing his hesitation, gave him until sunset to make a decision. As Rick walked back home, he thought about the princess's proposal. He couldn't deny that he was attracted to her, but the thought of leaving his simple life behind scared him. He missed his old woodcutter's hut and the familiar surroundings of his village. When he reached his hut, now a pile of broken wood and bricks, he realized that all the money he had acquired from the mouse had vanished. Rick sighed and sat down on a nearby log. As the sun began to set, he heard a familiar voice. "So, Rick, have you made up your mind?" It was the princess. Rick, knowing that he couldn't hide forever, confessed everything to her, including the mouse's gift. The princess, touched by his honesty and integrity, understood why he had been chosen. She said, "Rick, you don't need a palace or gold to be happy. You already have what truly matters, your family and your values." Together, they returned to the village where Rick resumed his life as a humble woodcutter. He continued to be respected and loved by his community, and he never forgot the valuable lesson he learned from a tiny mouse. The story of Rick Hansen teaches us that true happiness comes not from material possessions or status, but from our values, family, and the love of our community. It reminds us to stay true to ourselves, no matter what challenges we may face, and to never forget the little things that make life worth living. Like the story of the 34th mouse. If you want to hear another interesting story, click on the video on the screen now. And don't forget to subscribe.